Hello. My name is Laura Sievers. I'm the youth director in Redding, California from Colorado. And also, because I said that I would mention Dan Whipple's name up here. And so, Dan Whipple. Like Captain Kyle was saying, I was asked to share my testimony tonight, so I will be doing that. But before I go and jump into that, I thought I would tell you a little bit about myself, and so you know me a little more. Just a couple basic things. For example, when I get really nervous, I flex my leg muscles really tight. I'm doing that right now, just so you know. And also, I'm very tall, and contrary to popular belief, just because you're tall doesn't mean that you like to play basketball or even good at it. And my kids, and when I say my kids, I mean the kids that I work with, they like talking about my height a lot. And just the other day, one of my boys came up to me and he said, "You're bigger than my mom." And then he went on and he said, "You're bigger than my dad." He wasn't done. He said, "You're bigger than my house." And all I said was, "That's how God made me." And anyways, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit how I came into being a youth director, because I didn't ever really want to be a youth director. I wanted to be a school teacher, or I wanted to work in corporate America. I didn't know what that would look like, but I pictured myself being in a big, tall, fancy building with marble floors. And after I graduated school, my core officers where I attended in Redding, Majors Wayne and Patricia Wetter, they told me the youth director is leaving, and so they asked me to come into the position. And I said no right away. I said I'll pray about it, but I didn't really want to, because I decided I didn't want to be a school teacher, so I probably wouldn't want to work with kids. And so, but I did pray about it because I told them I would. And they pursued me a lot that summer, and I just couldn't get peace about not going there, but I was fighting it really hard because I didn't want it to be that way. I wanted it to be the way that I pictured it. And basically after one night where I couldn't sleep at all, I had one night of peace that I knew that this is where I was supposed to be. And so I called them the next morning before I chickened out, and I said, "All right, I'll come." And so I went to Redding to be the youth director, but I've been there about 3 years, and for my first 2 years, I really didn't like it at all. And it wasn't because of anything that kids did or that my officers did. It was myself, because I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I have very high expectations of myself, and I was really scared of failing. And so I dreaded almost every day, and I dreaded program days the worst, because I just couldn't wait for them to be over, because I felt really, I dealt with a lot of anxiety that I was going to not be good enough. And there were many a day where there's a Kmart right down the street where I would drive there before a program, and I would just be in my car, and I would start crying, and I would be yelling at God, like, "Gosh, God, this is so mean. Why do you want me to be in a place where I'm so unhappy?" I thought it was so mean of God. And I didn't mind doing the job, I just didn't want the emotions that I felt, because even when I wasn't at work, I felt so distracted. I was always thinking about it, and I had a huge fear of failure, and I just wanted to escape that. I didn't want to be in that position anymore. And so I started looking for a way to have a good excuse to not be in the job anymore. And one of my girlfriends told me about a job that she worked in, which was what I had originally thought of myself doing. It was kind of like a corporate America job. It was working for Homecomings Financial in Dallas, Texas. And so I actually went there, and I decided to try it. And so I left after 2 years, and I went to Dallas. And it was the way I pictured it. It was this 40-story tall building with the glass doors that you walk through, and there's bellmen pointing you to the elevators. And I dressed fancy, but it was just as bad. It was even worse now, because now instead of my feelings came with me, and all my fears and problems came with me, only this time I was isolated, and I didn't have a support system. I didn't know anybody in Dallas. And I was really sad. I was very sad there. And I was really disappointed that things didn't turn out the way I pictured them, because I thought I would feel better. I thought my emotions and my fear of failure would go away. but they came with me. And I was really sad in this job. I didn't like it. And so one day on my way to work, I just started crying because I was just like, basically I felt like wherever I went, I was a failure. And I thought that I sucked at life and I wasn't good at being a grown-up. And I made a commitment to be here for a year, and it's been like 3 months and I was already ready to leave. And so I went that day, and that was a low point for me. I visited a dark place spiritually and emotionally. I called in work sick, and I went and sat in a park, and I knew that I had to make a decision to either come back home or to stay there. And I didn't know what to do. I felt like I couldn't hear God's voice anymore. I felt like I messed up and that I didn't know how to hear God. And I remember thinking, like, I have to go get something to eat. It's 3 p.m. I need to go at least eat something. And I went to a Jack in the Box, and I got a salad. And I was sitting there, and I couldn't, like, it was affecting me physically. I was sitting there, my hand was shaking. I couldn't even get the food to my mouth without it falling. And I just thought that I wasn't okay, and I needed to make a change. And that night, I was reading the Bible, and I went to James, and I was reading James chapter 5. James chapter 5, verse 13, and it said, "Look here, you people who say, today or tomorrow we are going to a certain town, and we'll stay there a year. We will do business there and make a profit. How do you know what will happen tomorrow? For your life is like the morning fog. It's here a little while, then it's gone. What you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or that. Otherwise, you'll be boasting about your own plans, and all such boasting is evil." And it hit me really hard because I felt that was very specific to what I had done. I'd put all my hope into my plans, and even staying there for a year, which was my goal and what I told everybody. And I ended up coming home after 3 months, and time's up. I'm almost done. And so those verses hit me really hard because it was a very important lesson to me to hold my plans loosely, because I put so much of my confidence in my hopes in my circumstances and in my emotions, and they all fell apart. None of them carried through for me. And just through that entire experience, I realized that God is the only one that can satisfy my soul. And there's nothing else that can satisfy my soul like He does. And so when I came back from Texas, the job was still open, and my corps officers asked me if I still wanted it. And I did, because God changed my heart, because He does that. And He made it be different. And He made me, instead of dreading it, He made me look forward to it and missing my kids and wanting to be with them and wanting to pour into them. And so I guess I just wanted to encourage you folks with that just a reminder where we put our hope in. Do we put it in Christ, or do we put it in the things around us? Because He's the only one that has unfailing love that will never let us down. Thank you.